For those millennials out there, this is called a breaker point set. These are the points, or the Poin, from the Bluick. And they don't look so good. If you look here, you can see where it's connected. And if I move that, it's black and sooty and pitted. And the contact there doesn't look that good. And now I understand how this all works. It's very simple. There's a couple wires that attach in there. And this Allen screw is adjustable by that little metal shutter in the distributor. And all it does is it moves this piece in and out. And that adjusts what's called the dwell, or how long the contacts stay connected and not. I don't know much more about it. This is spring-loaded, and there is a cam that drives this and keeps moving it and making and breaking the connection, hence breaker points. So, was Cheech right? Well, what happened was my dad had the car and he put in the Poin, and I went out there. He didn't set the dwell. There was a whole big shit about that. Anyway, I go out there with the dwellmeter, hook it up, and I start it, and it's running like a bag of shit. It's misfiring everywhere. But we haven't adjusted the dwell yet. So that's okay. So anyway, we checked the dwell. I think it was supposed to be 28, and it was set to like 23. That's with as close as you can get with the feeler gauge by putting the new points in, and then by turning that Allen screw, you fine-tune it. So anyway, we fine-tuned it. Now we got it locked on. So now we said, well, let's check the timing now, because that can change when you adjust the dwell. And we checked the timing, and the timing was something like 5 or 6 before top dead center. 5 or 6 degrees before there. It's supposed to be 2.5. However, it seemed to run better up in the 8 area, which was a little odd. Anyway, we set it to 8, and I took the car around the block. Well, I'll tell you, the engine sounded strong. It felt strong. Didn't have any problem going around the block. I came back, pulled it in the driveway, put it in reverse, put the headlights on, and within 2 minutes, it stalled. It wasn't the points, Cheech. So I said, all right, well, let's go see Cheech. See what else he has to say. So we go down there. I drive the car there. It's fine. So Cheech says, okay, open the hood. Open the hood. So I open the hood and shut the engine off. So I shut it off, and he goes right in there and he rips out 2 spark plugs, one on each side of the engine. He said, you see this? It's black. It's too rich. Carburetor. Yeah, we know about that, but the old plugs were that way also. Oh, you have old plug? I said, yeah, they're in the trunk. Get. So I go and I get. And I pull the old plugs out, and he looks at those and he says, these are AC Delco plugs. You need AC Delco plugs. And I'm like, he said, the plugs you put in here are shit. Get the Delco plugs. So he didn't want to really play with it, but he did play with it some. We said, no, it's still misfiring. He said, oh, you got to get plugs. Put in the AC Delco plugs. But he went and he got his timing wrench. There's a hold-down bolt under the distributor, and you need this funky fucking offset, bendy, like in a U-shaped wrench, like in a C-shape, kind of U-shape, depending which way you turn it. And then you put that on the bolt, and then you can loosen it so you can turn the distributor to adjust the timing. And that was the number we were talking about, 8 before, and it should be 2.5. But we learned that the timing chain is, of course, stretched. And everything later on got put into perspective. What happened was, Cheech said, okay, I adjust the timing. He just did it by ear. He did not use a timing light at all. And then he says, okay, let's go. And we hop in the car, and we go for a ride. He drives, and the engine sounded different. It ran different. It sounded even stronger yet, and that hammering sound out of the bad exhaust manifold gasket is nowhere near as loud. And you'd say, well, isn't that worse? No, it's better. It really is all around a lot stronger. So he adjusted the timing, and he says, put in the Delco plugs. I'll talk to you later. That was it. We went back to my dad. Car ran fine. Ran fine all the way back to him. I get in the driveway. I put it in reverse. I put the headlights on. Within 20 seconds, it stalls. So that didn't do it either. Don't know. Cheech also adjusted the idle speed even more. I don't know what it's even fucking set to now. But we did hook the timing light back up to it to see, and the timing was off the chart. It was more like 20 instead of 2.5. But then it was put into perspective. Because I remember we hooked the timing light up to my old Chevy, and that also was like off the fucking map. And the reason why was that car had a chain also, and that chain was well stretched, and there you go. So even though there are specs and numbers, if everything else isn't adding up, then those numbers don't mean shit. So Cheech did the right thing by setting the timing like that. Anyway, we took the Bluick out again, and we stopped at a gas station in the area there, which, interestingly enough, is also the place where we get the cars inspected. Now, we used to have a different place, but they went out of business. Not for how they were inspecting cars. It's just the owner got old and retired, and that was the end of that. So we found this other place, and they don't pester about, bullshit or anything like that either. So I needed gas for the Bluick, so we filled it up, and while we were there, we talked to the guy, and the guy said, oh, yeah, I don't work on those. I like my scan tool. I like to plug it in and find out what the problem is. So he's out, anyway. But he said he can inspect it, and it's just a safety inspection, so there's nothing to do. He's going to basically sit in the car and beep the horn and get out of the car and put a sticker on it. That's pretty much what the other guy did. There's just nothing to do. I mean, they're supposed to put it up on a lift and take the wheels off and check for worn everything, and I think he knows enough not to play. So at least that should go well, which is due next month. So anyway, we drove to the gas station. That was fine. We continued on to AutoZone that's nearby my dad. Well, I got to remember the course of events, so give me a second here. The area that this store is located in is maybe not one of the most desirable areas. And we go in there, there's a line, 6 people deep. And the people behind the counter, well, there was actually one. And the manager, she was Spanish. But the people behind the counter, I didn't dislike them at all, but it's like if you get a blouse and, a woman gets a blouse and they say to another one, what do you think of that? And they don't want to really hurt their feelings. They just say, well, it's not your color. So that's what happened. So service was slow. Anyway, waited, and finally my dad was there with me, and he decided he was going to go up to Miss Spanish and say, hey, there's a big line out here. Don't you have somebody else? And she says, yes, but he's in the back. And my dad said, well, that doesn't help us out here. And she says, I know. And that was the end of the conversation. Anyways, it so turns out that after waiting online for all of that time, the lady in front of us had a check engine light on in her car. And meanwhile, we're hearing through the grapevine that this other person who's in the back is actually in the bathroom. And he's been in the bathroom for the last 20 minutes easily. So, yeah. And it was just the three of them in that entire store. The manager and those two people, one of which was MIA. You know, masturbation in action. So anyways, that was the deal with that. Anyhow, the lady in front of me had a check engine light on in her car, and they have a rule where if somebody has a check engine light, they go out with their scan tool and plug it in and tell you what's wrong, and hopefully they can sell you parts, and it's a money-making scam anyway. But they'll check it for you for free. So they just yell out, check engine! And pretty much everybody has to stop what they're doing and go help customers online because they have to go out of the store. Well, this is nobody else but Miss Spanish. So she comes over and says, okay, what you looking for? We need spark plugs for a 67 Buick Riviera. Okay, yeah, spark plug right here. I said, I need AC Delco plugs. We don't have it in stock. We can have it for you tomorrow. So we said, alright, thanks for wasting our time. Goodbye. We leave. We go around the corner, practically, to Advance Auto Parts, another auto parts store. Well, the color in there wasn't quite right for me either. Just... No. There were two people in there also. One was somewhat intelligent looking, if you can say, but he was on the phone. No, not his cell phone. He was on the store phone, so he was probably conducting business, so I'll accept that. The other one was like, help you? You want to say that a little louder so I could hear you? Help you? So it's pretty much pressing buttons on the machine till bananas come out. Essentially, I almost had to take over control of the system to find what I was looking for. Well, it turns out they actually had the plugs I needed. And he says, yes, they're in stock. Okay, I need 8 of them. So he goes, he's looking on the shelf. Can't find them. Can't find them. The other guy who was on the phone goes to help him. Yeah, it said plug 834, whatever the number was, it doesn't make a difference. So he goes right to the shelf, right where the guy's standing, goes, yoink! Grabs 834s. They come 4 in a box, he grabbed 2 boxes, and there we go. Go to the register, and he says, ring him up. So he goes to ring me up. Well, so it turns out my dad's a veteran, and there's a sign hanging in the store, 10% off for veterans, or for military, you know. I said to my dad, you have your ID? He says, absolutely. I said, cool, okay. So anyway, he punches the thing up in the register, and I said, military discount. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Why do they hire people who are completely incompetent? Oh wait, I know the answer. It's because they have to. They have to, because the color was right for them. Yeah, the color of the blouse. Remember, I'm not talking, you know, white, black, nothing. Nope, just the color of the blouse was wrong. And that's what the problem was. So they had to. His blouse was the wrong color, I guess. But anyway, the other guy comes over, and maybe he was the manager or something, and he went and punched it in on the thing. And he said to my dad, can I see your ID? My dad shows him his ID, and he said, thank you for your service, sir. That was actually nice. Yep. Maybe color doesn't matter as much as the intelligence does. I think that's really what it is. Yeah. Colors that reflect more light are brighter. I think we'll leave it at that. Anyway, got new plugs. We got back to my dad, ran fine. Pull in the driveway, lights on, reverse, it stalls. We haven't done anything yet. So he had the plugs, and the last I knew, he put the plugs in, and he did test the car. His test was to put it in reverse and not put the lights on, even though that's specifically what I've been doing the entire time. As it were, there were gardeners there anyway, so it would be pretty hard to hear a misfire, although you could feel it. I don't know. Left it at that. The next day, I wake up and I had a brainstorm. And I said, if there's new spark plugs, every last square inch of the ignition system, because we did the Poin, as you know, and of course the condenser also goes with that. That was also replaced. The ignition coil, the spark plug wires, the ignition, the spark plug wires, the spark plugs themselves now have been done. Every last square inch of that ignition system has been replaced. So why would the misfire continue? Well, I think we pretty much ruled out ignition. It's got to be either fuel or something else. Well, a couple things came to mind. First of all, I realized, and this didn't all add up for me, and I haven't heard back, so I'm going to leave this one on a cliffhanger. But it occurred to me that when we were doing the timing belt test, timing chain test, pardon me, and we were rolling the engine back and forth with the wrench, we were using the alternator pulley because the bolt was right there. Well, the belt on it wasn't exactly that tight, and we sort of had to squeeze the belt on the pulley as we turned with the wrench. And then it turned the engine over no problem. So it wasn't quite that tight. It's possible it's slipping under load. Now, when I first got the car, it had a bad voltage regulator. And Sal, who had it before, who I bought it from, I don't know how many times he killed the battery, but I know he had jumper cables in there, and that means it was probably an ongoing problem. And he decided not to fix it, or just dealt with it, or what. And we had to jump start it when I was looking at it to buy it. And by the next day, the battery was stone cold dead. So I started disconnecting the battery and then found that the voltage regulator was the problem, which was dragging the battery down to, well, nothing. Car batteries don't like to be drained down to nothing. The battery was pretty new. It was maybe only a year old, but I don't know how many times that's been drained down to zero. It never gave me any problem. I never had to get a jump start or anything, especially after the voltage regulator was replaced. So, could it be a voltage issue? Could it be that the alternator, with its possibly slipping belt, isn't producing enough voltage, and the battery only is containing enough of a surface charge to start the engine, but not to maintain current over a long period of time, and with the headlights on and the car in reverse so the engine runs slower, and the lights, which will drag the alternator down, making it hard to turn, slowing the engine down even more, producing less voltage on a battery that's on its last legs, possibly, I don't know. Would that be enough to bring the voltage down below a certain threshold where misfires occur? Brainstorm is what it was. I haven't heard back. I'm away now in Connecticut, as you see, but I'll be home by the time you see this, so don't bother trying to rob me because I'm home. Anyway, I'll have to leave you at that, and maybe that was it. If not, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll go back to Cheech and see what else he comes up with. Maybe it is the carbonator. You know, I mean, the carbonator's always been finicky at best. It could be replaced. You know, that may solve a myriad of other problems. One other thing that Cheech did solve, by the way, I can't really explain this one except to give you a verbal demonstration. Put the car in drive, stand on the brake with your left foot, and mash the gas. The engine goes, but the car can't move because you're standing on the brake. As you're mashing the gas, if you just let go, the engine would pretty much stall. Not exactly, it would stop running, and then, if you're lucky, it'll just get a little bit of inertia and keep running. We did that with it in reverse, and I was standing on the brake, and it wasn't doing that after Cheech adjusted the timing. So that certainly was an issue that has been solved. So I think we're making a little bit of progress. I don't know. I don't have any firm conclusions on anything. My dad said he was going to try the car with the alternator disconnected to see if the same problem occurs, and then maybe that would give an indication that the battery is pooched and whatever. So I don't have any further info. We're going to have to leave it at that. Sorry about the cliffhanger. Thank you for watching. Make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe. And I hope the Bluick is fixed soon. Bye-bye.